Okay, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. So, in the first two episodes, we got our career mode off to a start, and we finished up with our aviation exploration of the planet Kerbin. We have tagged and unlocked all of the other launch sites. We have planted a flag at all of the Easter eggs, and generally finished up the aviation phase of our career mode here, and we are about ready to get started on actual space exploration, which is literally the name of the game. So what a concept, right? Alright, so we're going to dump all those. Now, we've got the contracts for our first orbital satellite. One just to do an orbit, and one to do an orbital satellite, which is more specific than just entering orbit. So, we're going to call it... We'll call it Kerbisat 1, because why not? Alright, here's our little probe core. Our first satellite is going to be very basic. Very basic. We'll tuck those in. So the main purpose of this first satellite is literally just going to be... There. It's literally just going to be to get our credit for having completed the contract and all that. And we'll put a little thermometer on it just to send back the report in case we ever need that for something. I always like to have at least one science experiment on the vast majority of my satellites. Really just in case it ever matters for a contract to like return scientific data from space around Kerbin or something like that. Oop. Alright, there we go. Alright, so this is about as basic as we're going to get. Alright, so let's go do some decoupling. Do we have... Alright, we don't have a little tiny one. That sucks. Alright, so we're going to have to do this kind of stupidly. But it's fine, it's fine. And by do it kind of stupidly, what I mean is... I think that's going to be... Yeah, that's the big one. I'm looking for a part that's like this size, but not a fuel tank. Because I want to use something as a spacer in between that decoupler and the fairing, but might not really have a choice. So that's fine. That's fine. Alright, here we go. Okay. So now, let's do our first orbital rocket. Get our little Terrier engine there. And we'll make that gold because we can. Okay, and we're going to want to... I'm going to put some aerodynamic fins on this. So the lack of a gimbal on the Reliant engine should not be as much of an issue. Okay. This should have relatively good delta V. we'll do our little launch clamps. Okay. So, and most importantly, this rocket is very cheap. As you're seeing there, that's very important. So let's see if Kerbal 1 is going to have what it takes to get itself into orbit. Up we go. All right, got a good thrust-to-weight ratio. So the normal thing to do is going to be to start our gravity turn right at around 100 meters per second, with our goal being a stable ascent at around 45 degrees by 300 meters per second. And I'm looking at it, and we might actually be a little shy. But that's okay. All right, there we go. It's a relatively good ascent angle. And so again, you know, as I mentioned in the last episode, I know a lot of folks who play KSP are a bit more methodical, but I personally have a lot more fun just kind of like guesstimating the delta V and the thrust to weight requirements and all that sort of stuff. I find it's a lot more entertaining when you can just kind of wing it and hope for the best. And you know, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. And it looks like this one's going to work, because our altitude there, our apoapsis, is up in space where it should be, and we're still on the first stage. So the first stage was enough to get us to a good suborbital trajectory. And I'm gonna aim for about 200,000 meters for our apoapsis. We're doing pretty good so far, getting up there. Okay. And we'll get rid of our fairing, and we will deploy our little antenna. Bloop. And we'll do some temperature scan just because we can. Now, we don't have our tracking station upgraded, so I don't have the apoapsis available as an indicator on my trajectory there. So, again, we're just kind of winging it. But that's fine. Yeah, we got pretty close. Anyhow, we have plenty of delta V with this rocket. So I think I'm going to save this off as a design to reuse for light satellites. Not bad. Alright, there's a little Kerbal 1. Okay, and we completed a bunch of contracts, got a whole bunch of money, so that was good. And we will go back to the Space Center. And now is going to be where it becomes important to upgrade our tracking station. Oops. I didn't want to go into it, I wanted to upgrade it. Yes. Okay. So now alright, rendezvous, spacewalk, and return to orbit. So I'm not going to bother with this yet. The rewards are really good, but that's going to be a little bit further ahead than I want. Fly by the moon. I will take that. That's one of the custom progression contracts. Alright, so I'm going to clear out a bunch of these observational surveys. And I'm going to look and check out if there are any contracts available to put a satellite into an easy orbit. Okay. That one looks like it's a contract to, yeah, put Kerbal 1 into an adjusted orbit. Alright, here's one for a polar orbit. That's actually interesting. I might take that, well, I don't know. I might come back to that, because what I'm thinking for that orbit, that would be good for a relay satellite. Because one of the things I'm going to be starting to do right now is to start creating a relay network. But I kind of like this idea, the Winter Owl Aircraft Emporium, of, I think I saw one there to adjust Kerbal 1's orbit. So let's go in and look for that. And the rewards, okay, those are okay rewards just for changing Kerbal 1's orbit. And that shouldn't be difficult to do. I mean, we have plenty of Delta V, I think. So let's go in and have a look. Alright, so we can create a maneuver node. Just literally changing our inclination a bit. Okay, and making sure that we don't change our orbital path too badly. Okay, so that's good. Look at that. 379 meters per second. Delta V required. That's not bad. And I think we can probably get that out of this little engine we've got. Oh, but I don't have radio signal. Alright. We're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait for the planet to rotate so that we can get... Oh, is it going to... Yeah, it's going to be like that. But yeah, we're going to have to wait for the planet to rotate so that we can have a radio signal and actually control our spacecraft here. Minor detail. That's one of the reasons we're going to be making a relay network. Okay, so now we should be able to actually do this. Oh, and I forgot the thrust was so low. Alright. And after one cycle, I should still have... Yeah, I should still have control. Come on, get that inclination up. Okay, well, that didn't go exactly as planned, but it worked. So now we're just gonna... We'll warp over here to... kind of near our periapsis. And we might have to go around the planet a couple of times, now that I think about it. Because again, we need our radio signal to control Kerbal 1. Yep. Alright, so then, all we're going to do, literally, is just slow down and equalize our orbit against the target there. And we've got plenty of fuel, plenty of Delta V able to do that. Yeah, I'd forgotten that the thrust of that little engine was so absolutely terribly low. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just something to be aware of. Whoops. Nice. And that should have completed our contract. Yeah, stability for 10 seconds, which is easy to do. Okay. Easy money. So now we're going to design a simple relay satellite. But first, let's check for some contracts. All right. Now, see, this is what I was looking for. Science data from space around Kerbin. I really like this repeatable contract because if you look at the rewards, right, not only do we get a couple of science points, and we get reputation, which is good, we're also going to get over 25,000 money funding, which will pay for the launch. So we can launch a satellite like the relay satellite I was just talking about that isn't gonna, serve a whole lot of purpose on its own, and still make some money off of it, even though we're not doing it to like complete a specific contract. All right, so I'm gonna save this booster for reuse, and we'll call that OTAR 1. All right, that's a light booster. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to redesign our satellite a little bit. We're going to add in some extra communications. Yeah, we'll do two just for the symmetry to make it look nice. And that's the other thing we're gonna have to do. That's fine. That's fine. All right. Nice. Okay. I like that. All right. So now we're gonna do our action group. Action Group 1. Oh, is it not going to let us? Oh, no, there it is. Had the wrong thing selected. No big deal. So Action Group 1 is going to deploy our antennas. And that should give us a very basic relay satellite for only 13,000. So by launching this with the contract to return some science data to Kerbin, we're actually gonna profit a little bit off of launching a relay satellite, which is something we need, for long-term progression anyway. So that works out very well. Okay, I like that. Are we forgetting anything? I don't think we are. Yeah, these HG5 high gain antennas are really good because they early on they serve as a relay, and just combining them with the regular direct comms antennas is pretty decent, and it's not going to be high range, but it'll become important when we're launching things to the moon and when we're trying to launch higher range relay satellites into weird orbits like on the other side of the planet. And like if we want to do some launches from some of those other launch sites, which I definitely do. So we're using our OTAR-1 booster here. I'm going to start our gravity turn. Going up. Yeah, this basic rocket design works very well for, small, light satellites like this. Tiny little payloads. It's not going to be capable, I don't think, of putting like a fully equipped space capsule into orbit, because that's going to be a lot heavier, and it's going to have like a bunch of monopropellant, an RCS, some junk like that attached to it, like some science payloads and stuff that are going to dramatically increase the weight. But for a small, light payload, like one of these tiny little satellites, this'll be, this will be a good booster, and I think I'll probably get a lot of, I think I'll probably get a lot of reuse out of this. Look at that. First stage is still burning. Up to 100,000. Not bad. That was a good ascent. And now we can actually track our apoapsis a little bit better. And let's see how far we can get with about half of our fuel. Because I'm thinking we can probably get pretty far out there. Yeah. Look at that. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And we'll deploy our goodies. And we'll return some science. Now, even though we're not gaining any science points from that, you're going to see we completed the contract. Because the contract didn't say that, you have to earn any actual science. You just have to return the data. So, literally, if you're doing a career mode and you find yourself like really desperate for funding later on or something like that, that's a trick that you can do. You can just accept a whole bunch of those missions to return science data from like orbit around Minmus or something, right? And use satellites that you already have in place that have like a thermometer or something like that, to, just return some science data. Not bad. Alright, we're going to get out to about 1.5 million. And that'll be a good relay satellite. So it'll be another orbit or two, I think, until we get into a position where we've got communications again. Nice. Alright, so now we'll stabilize our orbit a little bit. Roughly going for 1.5 mil. It doesn't have to be exact. We're not doing geostationary. Okay, that's not bad. And we'll orient vertically so that we've got good solar panel coverage. Not bad, okay. Good little relay satellite. And we still had a fair amount of Delta V that we could have used. So we could do another one of those and have it a bit further out. These atmospheric surveys. I should have disabled those contracts. So let's take a look now. One of the other things I like to do is I like to use these early game relay satellites. Oh, that's interesting. That would like intersect the moon and go flying off into deep space eventually. Is I like to try and use the position a satellite in some specific orbit missions, the contracts for that. I like to use relay satellites to complete those. So I'm serving the double purpose of completing a contract and also constructing a relay satellite. But I don't have any that are going to be appropriate because I'm just going to do another into an equatorial orbit. So this will be Kerbal 3. And it's literally just going to be the same deal. Oops, wrong button. It'd help if I actually launched the thing right. And so I'm going to be trying for a bit higher altitude with this one. I'm going to be going for like 2.5 million if we can get there. We'll see. Because if the worst comes to it, we still have a fair amount of delta V in that last stage that's attached to the satellite directly. So overall, this design will get us pretty far. I mean, if I did a one-way trip without trying to circularize the orbit, this would probably get us to a moon flyby, and I might actually do that to complete that contract with something very similar to this. Ooh, we're tipped over a little bit too far. That might not go well. Let's make sure our control surfaces are maxed out. Alright, yeah, we're losing a lot of delta V. I screwed up that ascent pretty bad. That's what happens when you mess up your ascent angle, kids. So we might still make it to orbit. The mission might not be a total loss, but if you notice, like at the end of stage 1, our apoapsis is going to be like barely at the Kármán line, whereas before it was 100,000. So we had a much better ascent angle before. Yeah, this one kind of sucked. Not my best work. But let's see how far we can get anyway. Oh, wow. Alright, we can get quite a ways. So let's get it out to like 3 million. Alright, we'll see what that gets us. And I should still have... Yeah, we've still got communication. So I might be able to circularize this orbit. Actually, I'm looking at it. I should be fine. Yeah, this design really does have a good amount of delta V. Because even though the booster isn't especially strong, the payload is very light. Look at that. We can get out to like 3.6. You know what? Let me go for 4. And this way, again, we're creating a relay network. With the idea being that by having, multiple relay satellites, if they're on like the other side of the planet from the Kerbal Space Center or whatever, we're still going to have a connection Not bad. Alright, that worked out pretty well. Now we'll wait for our... Okay. Oh yeah, so that's one of the other things. We're gonna occasionally get random money just from accomplishing these world first milestones. It may sound kind of dumb, but that ends up being a really significant source of funding for for a lot of the early career. Like we set a lot of those records. You know what? We'll look at those polar orbits. We set a lot of records with the aviation we did in episode 2, and we got a fair amount of money from that. All right. The Curlington rockets won. And that is a southern oriented orbit. So Curlington rockets is the one we want. Let's see if there's any weird requirements on that contract. Antenna, generate power, mystery goo, stability for 10 seconds. Alright, so we can take our Kerbal and put a mystery goo on it. We'll put 2 just for symmetry. Okay, that's not bad. It didn't increase much to the weight. And this will be Kerbal 4. And what we can do is we can launch this from one of these other launch sites. Now we're probably going to have to wait a little while until we get a correct orientation, which is okay. Alright, so... Oh, is it not going to show me? Or did I not take the contract? Whoops. Haha, minor detail. It would help if I actually accepted the contract, right? Okay. Now, we'll try that again, without being quite as incompetent. Alright, and we will launch that from Crater Lake? Glacier Lake. Come on. Alright, there we go. Alright, so... Alright, and what is our orientation there? Alright, so it's going to be southerly if we do it that way. So I'm going to wait until I am on the night side. Well, I'm kind of on the... No, I'm like right on the Terminator. Yeah, I'm going to wait. And here's our launch site there. I'm going to wait until we're aligned a little bit better. Perfect. F5 for safety. Whoop. And that's why. Little bounce, no big deal. It's all good. Meant to do that. That was deliberate. It was totally deliberate. Oh, and that is a problem that I did not anticipate. We, our relay network isn't complete, so we don't actually have control of our satellite right now. Haha. Hmm. That could be an issue because we can't do a gravity turn or anything. I'd like to be turning north right about now, but okay. I guess we'll see how this turns out. We might end up crashing this satellite. But that's all. That's all part of the fun with Kerbal Space Program, because you never know what kind of shenanigans are going to happen. All right, can I even stage? Okay. I can stage and I can throttle, but I can't turn. And that means I can... Alright. So there's at least that. And maybe if I get my... Oh! Okay, good. I have control now. Alright, that's what I wanted. Wow, this is like a really bad, sloppy ascent, and I don't think we're going to have the Delta V to get into the orbit we need to complete that contract. But we'll still try. So right now we're just trying to make orbit. Get into this weird polar orbit. And yeah, that was a bit of an oversight. Not having relay control. I foolishly had sort of subconsciously assumed that the extra launch sites were going to provide some short-range relay. But thinking back, I do seem to remember that those extra launch sites ended up being more useful for crewed launches, where you have a Kerbal in a command pod who can, steer the thing. Alright, so if I can achieve orbit, then I can see if maybe I've got the Delta V to tweak. Ugh. Alright, there's our orbit. But I don't think I'm going to have the Delta V with just that little probe. Yeah, oh wow. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Delta V to try and fix this. Well, we may still get a polar relay satellite out of it. It just might not be accomplishing that contract that I had hoped for. Yeah, because we're running out of fuel real quick. Changing orbital inclination like this is very fuel intensive. It takes a lot of Delta V to change your orbital plane like that. And now, I mean, if I had the fuel, which I don't think I do, it would literally just be a matter of burning. Yeah, and we do not have the Delta V, I don't think. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't think that this is going to quite make it. We might be able to get up to 6 million, but there's no way we'd have enough to circularize. So let me try this. I'll try getting up to like 1 million. And I'll try to circularize from there. And that way we'll at least get a polar relay out of it. And that might help on the next launch. Because if we had a better ascent angle, I don't think we would have had any trouble with the Delta V. And we've still got control directly back to KSC. Come on, keep going. You're barely going to make it. Just barely going to do it. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Where are we? There we go. All right, well, we've... Hey, you know what? We can get some diminishing returns off this. Cool. Well, we have a polar relay satellite now, and with any luck, we can try that launch again, but this time, like, with radio contact. Minor detail. And just checking to see if we have any additional contracts that might be lucrative, and I'm waiting for this one to expire. This is going to expire real quick, because I don't want to have to try and do all that this early in the career mode. I like to go at a slightly slower pace for the early progression. All right, so this is going to be Kerbal 5. And same thing, we'll try from Glacier Lake, because that is a really good northern latitude. But this time, all right, still no comms. So we'll wait another day. Yeah, I think we're going to be relying on that polar relay in order to give us a signal. Oh, alright, I could have launched there. The joys of being early in the career mode and not having our relay network really established yet. Alright, so what do we got? Okay, this is good. Kerbal 4 is coming up over us, which is exactly what we need. Because it means that relay signal is only going to get stronger. Oh no, it's gonna pass us by, crud. Well, close enough. Screw it. F5 for safety. We're just going to wing it. All right. That was a nice little area. The mountains in the distance and stuff. I like this. Nice little launch site up in the middle of nowhere. And our gravity turn is going to be going north. Oh no, am I stupid? I'm stupid. I'm completely stupid. I launched on the wrong side of the planet. Well, maybe we can fix it and turn south. I doubt it, though. I think I already screwed this up. Oh, man. Well, maybe Kerbal 6 will have a little bit better luck for us. But the worst case is we'll still get another relay satellite out of it. And that alone isn't a bad thing. I kind of have half a mind to just crash this thing and relaunch Kerbal 5, but, you know, it never hurts just to have another relay satellite floating around up here. Come on. In space high above the Badlands. And get some data out of that temperature scan. And again, you know, the good news is these little relay satellites we're launching, they're super cheap. They cost us very little. So by sending these up here, you know, we're not spending a lot of money, but we're gaining some relay functionality, which is extremely important, as we saw a couple of launches ago. Okay. Well, whoops. Yeah, it kind of sucks that we screwed that up twice in a row, but third time's a charm, right? And you know what? Just for good measure, I'm gonna kick the OTAR booster a little bit. Just in case we make another dumb mistake. These extra solid boosters will provide a significantly elevated level of delta V. Oh, jeez. All right, there we go. All right, Kerbal 6, you are the one. All right. Oh, we're almost in the correct inclination. All right, because we need to be... We're orbiting... All right, that's not bad. Are we going to have communications, though? We are. Not super strong, but we've got it. Okay. And as you can see there, we've gotten a significant boost in Delta V out of using those 4 solid boosters. So that dramatically increased the overall Delta V of this rocket by saving a significant amount of first stage liquid fuel. What I'm trying to do now, it's generally a little more efficient to do this sort of an inclination change lower in the atmosphere because we can gain some directional change off of our aerodynamic control surfaces. Oh, we went too far. Yeah, because we're too high. All right, so yeah, now we're relying on probe core torque. Which is not a super efficient way to turn a spacecraft like this. All right, now we've got a gimbal. That'll be a little easier. Okay, now we're getting there. This one might actually do it. Chasing our correct inclination angle a little bit. Okay, not bad. Whoa, too far. Oh boy, that was nuts. All right, lost track of that. Little carried away. A little carried away. So yeah, did I mention that that adding those 4 solid rocket boosters um, contributed a significant amount of delta V to this rocket? All right, now this is the $1,000,000 question: is whether or not we're going to have radio control once we get out to our apoapsis. All right, and it looks like we probably will. Yeah, it's not strong, but we got it, so we should be okay. And it should just be maintain stability for 10 seconds. which we easily completed. All right, so we got, well, 86,000. That was good. And just for some extra little diminishing returns, oh, well, transmit's going to get us nothing. So, well, in any case, we now have a good little relay network going. I'm satisfied with how that turned out. So let's take a look at our contracts again. That 3-star exploration contract should have probably expired. Like, what I'm hoping for is like an exploration contract of just return safely to the ground. All right, orbital spacewalk. Okay, I'll take that one. That's simplistic enough. But what I am going to be trying to do right now... Oh, still need a ton extra for that. What was I thinking? Yes. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to do a crude launch. And by that I mean CREW. Not crude as in like primitive, but crude as in with a crew. So let's get our first little orbital spacecraft going. No, you know what? Now that, thinking ahead, because this may eventually get a docking port on top. So I'm going to design the top a little bit differently. There we go. Yeah, because that'll eventually get a docking port on top of it, and I'm planning to reuse this design a little bit longer term. At least I'm hoping to. Nice. You know, what can we do for... Yeah, I kind of like the solid white. Alright, that'll work. Now let's get a heat shield. Now, we don't have any kind of reaction control system yet, so we're going to be relying on capsule torque for all of our orbital maneuvering, which is not ideal, but it'll work. Okay. Not bad. Now, the last detail we need on this is going to be communications. literally just going to clip it in like that. Nice and simple. Okay, so there's a good basic orbital spacecraft, and we're going to call this the Akatosh A. And we'll modify this going out over time, and you know, once we get to the point where we can, like, we'll add docking ports and stuff like that as needed. Yeah, and see, there we've got... That's a very useful part. It's not going to be super useful for this mission, but generally speaking, that is a useful part. The other thing I want to do... Oh, I don't have the control group. That's interesting. Why don't I have that? Huh. Alright, well, same thing. I'm going to do the control group for lighting to collect the science instead of... Oh, yeah, now see, alright, now there I suddenly got all the extra action groups. Did they change, like, some weird context thing? That's interesting. Alright, well, no big deal. Alright, so the one thing we are definitely going to want to do, though... well, after I do this, I'm going to want to... Alright, so for the actual Akatosh 1 launch, we're going to want to make the top of our rocket slightly more aerodynamic. So we'll just do that for the first one. Kind of ghetto, but that's fine. Alright, and we're going to want a bit more extra science. And it'll become clear why we're doing that in a minute. But the short answer is I'm going to try and go for a higher orbit. And in one mission, I want to collect science from space low and space high. Okay. We've got... Yeah, I think we're good on that. Alright, so now let's get our OTAR 1 booster. But this is not going to have enough Delta V to do what we need to do. And we're also going to have to change our staging quite a bit. But what will probably be able to do what we want to do is if we give this some more solid rocket boosters off the side. Now this is going to have a pretty ridiculous amount of Delta V. Yeah, this is going to be nuts. This would probably have enough Delta V to do, like, a flyby of the moon. And we may use it for that in the future. So I'm going to save off this booster. Presuming this first launch goes okay and the weight and balance and everything works right, I'll save off this booster as like the OTAR 2 or something. Let's make that a little bit nicer. Alright, so check our staging. Okay. Yeah, you know, if I had a 0.6 decoupler I would add the launch escape system onto this. Well, I don't know. I could do like a payload fairing or something, but I'm just gonna risk it, I think, because normally I do use the launch escape system. All right, so Jebediah is going to be our first one up, and we'll launch from the regular KSC launch pad, and up we go. All right, Akatosh 1 is going up for orbit. And again, this is going to have a ridiculous amount of delta V. Yeah, look at this. We're barely off the pad, and we're already pushing here. That is quite a bit of delta V. All right, Jebediah is going to have no trouble getting into orbit with this. And it's not even too expensive. Not bad. And again, there's our slightly more aerodynamic nose cone. Probably did help a little bit. All right, we'll start to nose over our gravity turn a bit more. Still barely in, still barely in stage 1. Now, did we? All right, that's, well, I'll do that on another mission. I'll get the diminishing returns from flying high. Well, no, you know what? I'll just do it now. Ah, too late. No big deal. And we'll move all that science up into the science container. Just collecting it all for good measure, because we can. And that is something I did not remember to check, but I don't think it'll be a problem. Occasionally, when you clip the storage container into the capsule, it'll block the door, and you can't actually get out. And that is something I should have checked beforehand, but did not remember. I think it'll probably be okay, though. So we'll get our orbit circularized here. Make sure we get our contract credit for all this. Oh. Well, never mind. Okay, so now we'll try and do a spacewalk. Okay, good, it worked. All right, good. We got the contract credit. Not bad. All right. So this will probably get us a fair amount of science when we land this, and we also got some good rewards. And that booster worked very well. I think we easily had enough Delta V. I mean, that was a moon rocket we just launched with. A small diameter moon rocket, but that was a moon rocket. And so now we're going to come in for a descent. And I like to get my periapsis around 30,000 meters. I find that to be a relatively safe re-entry profile from most altitudes. If I'm coming in like from an interplanetary mission or something, I might go a little higher and like do a burn or something like during re-entry, during the first like few thousand meters of re-entry, but for just a low Kerbal orbit like this, that'll be a very safe re-entry profile, I think. And we'll ditch that. And because Jebediah is a badass, check this out. Oh yeah. EVA report from inside the atmosphere. No big deal, no big deal. A little bit of extra science. I mean, when you're still this high up, it's safe-ish to step outside for just a second like that. And it's, you know, it's a few extra science points. And if you're using, like, Final Frontier, I don't remember if I am, but if you're using, like, Final Frontier that does, like, the achievement ribbons for your individual Kerbals, they'll get one for doing, I think it calls it a risky EVA. Because, like, you know, if you were to do an EVA right now, like, the friction and everything would just rip Jebediah straight off the capsule and probably kill him. So we're not trying to do that. We don't want any of that. All right, this mission worked out pretty well. I'm liking this. This is a little Akatosh capsule. Nice. And just to see, nothing. Probably nothing. Well, you know, why not? We'll just take it. Because we're losing nothing by putting those in. And, you know, sometimes I'll do this. Just to speed up the descent, because we're still going to touch down at a very safe velocity there. So that was, you know, completely fine. And again, I'm pretty sure I've already gotten all this science. I'm just double checking. Okay. All right, so we'll recover that before it sinks or some nonsense. And we'll see what we got for science. Hopefully that was pretty lucrative. Okay. Okay. That was a good mission. That did good things for us. Okay. So now we can actually start sending up like two-person crews and whatnot. Yeah, that was good. Now the question is though, do I want to get those lower level techs, or do I want to upgrade and grab something else. Yeah, this is going to be an important one coming up. And that's also a very important part right there. So I'm thinking I'm going to grab that. And yeah, because the RCS thrusters are extremely important. And the rest of these larger engines can wait. Because our booster we just used proved itself very capable. Okay, so fly by the moon and gather scientific data. Well, I've already got a contract to fly by the moon. So I'm definitely grabbing this. Look at those rewards. Oh, we're going to pay for a building upgrade all on its own with that. Well, all right, maybe not, because this is kind of expensive. But point is, that's going to be a really good mission for us. But what I want to do right now is I want to save off our OTAR 2, because that was a very good mission we just had there. Now, the next thing I want to do, and I'm a big fan of reusing designs. Okay. Now, same thing. We're just going to put this on a trajectory to fly by the moon. However, because we have that stack separator, we can be a little bit better with the fairing. And we should be able to still just use the OTAR 1. Remembering, of course, that this had a fair amount of delta V. Now, this is going to be a flyby. I'm not going to intend for this to achieve orbit, and in fact, I'm going to deliberately put it on a trajectory to crash back into Kerbin, because I don't want to leave it as like orbital debris up there. Because it sounds silly, but early on in the space program's career progression, I don't want to send something on an escape velocity too early. And the reason for that is I don't want to set off any of those progression triggers before I'm ready to do so. All right, so let's set ourselves up into a correct orientation. Yeah, that looks about right. Oops. Did we screw it up too bad? Oh, not too bad. A little bit, but that's okay. We had plenty of delta V to spare with this rocket, so our orientation, our launch angle to the moon isn't quite what it should be. Normally you want a 90-degree angle. And we're a little under that, but I mean that's fine. We've got plenty of delta V. This is only a flyby. It's a probe. And my hope is, that through doing this mission to do that moon flyby. I'll complete those contracts, we'll get some good science from it, and also we're going to get a bunch of money, because we have to upgrade our science center to level 2. And as you saw, that is an expensive upgrade. But it also unlocks surface samples for EVAs, and those are worth a lot of science. So we're actually probably looking at the time, it'll probably be in the next episode. We're actually going to spend a little bit of time getting some surface samples from around Kerbin. Oh, and our ascent angle wasn't very good again. I should be a little higher. I'm pitched over a little bit further than I should be, but it's all right. I mean, we've got Delta V to spare with this rocket, I think. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We are still on course for the moon. Or the moon. The moon. Oh, I shouldn't have done that so low. I didn't realize I was still at 50,000. I thought I was in space already. No big deal, though. Alright, screwed that up, but that's okay. Wasn't paying enough attention. So again, the idea between setting up this sort of an intersect is we're setting ourselves up so that when we get to the moon, we're literally, you know, throwing ourselves where the moon is going to be when we get to that point. So we're shooting ourselves, like, as you saw, like straight up almost, right? And we're letting the moon come to us, which ends up being a relatively efficient way to achieve a flyby. And is it going to let us? It is. I don't think, yeah, we're not going to be able to transmit because we don't have any. We don't have any signal. But we should still get. Yeah, we have to transmit that. And we don't have comms. We had it for a second. Yes, transmit the data. All right. Oh. Look at all that money. Oh, goodness. Yeah, that was significant. So, looking at the trajectory here, when this comes back around, that's going to smack right back into the surface of the planet. And that's just fine for me. Because I don't want to leave this in any sort of a condition where it's going to be space debris. And it doesn't really have enough delta V to achieve orbit around the moon. And we'll do that later. We're going to do, as I said, we're going to collect a little bit more science from around Kerbin and space around Kerbin before we dig in to moon exploration in earnest. All right, it wants a rendezvous. I don't care about that. All right, this is all from the surface of the moon. All right, so this just wants us to achieve orbit, and I'll grab the contract for that. And this wants us to crash into the moon. I'll also get the contract for that. And this wants us to do a flyby of Minmus. I'm going to wait. Almost got enough. But by doing this, something we're going to be able to do once this loads. Come on. Is we can take surface samples, which are worth 9 science apiece. And that is going to add up quickly. That is going to add up very quickly. All right, and from here we can get... No, you know what? We're going to wait. We're going to wait on heavy rocketry and space exploration because we don't really need those just yet. Because I want to get some of these upgraded techs first. Some of these technologies here at the beginning of level 2 are very important for the long-term progression. So we're going to wait and do that. But for right now, that's going to about wrap it up. We've been going for quite a while, and we've achieved crewed orbit. We've got a small relay network established, and we did a flyby of the moon. So that was relatively productive. So make sure to stay tuned for the next one, where we will continue our exploration in Kerbal Space Program. As always, thanks for watching.